Hey friends, you're on Z Movie Recaps, and this is a retelling of The Forest. Young American Sarah Price receives a phone call from the Japanese police. They assure her that her twin sister Jess is most likely dead. The assumption is based on the fact that the girl has been missing for over 2 days and was last seen near a forest, near the Akiho-hara Forest. The forest is located near Mount Fuji, known as a favorite suicide spot for desperate people. Sarah's fiancé, Rob, discourages her from going to Japan, saying that Jess is often involved in similar situations, so it's not worth taking everything to heart. Not listening to the young man, Sarah goes to another country and stays in the same hotel where her sister used to stay. A colleague of Jess's explains to her that in ancient times, families used to bring infirm old and sick relatives to the forest to die there to survive the famine, but because of the large number of decks in the forest, the souls were no longer at rest. After seeing the room where her sister lived, Sarah gets on the train and travels to the foot of Fuji. There she finds the small hotel where Jess stayed when she went on a field trip with her class. Showing a picture of the girl at the desk, Sarah is surprised to hear that her sister has been found. She is not sure, but follows the woman down to the basement. After seeing the guest star off, Mamini is not sure and tells her that the souls have been screaming all night. After she opens the door of one of the rooms, Sarah realizes that they are in no way a morgue. After examining the bodies, the girl reports that her sister is not among them. On her way out, Sarah asks a young girl, Sakura, about the people who could escort her to Akiho-hara. The Japanese woman only smiles, saying that the Yurui that inhabit the forest can sense the sadness in a person's heart, and that is why they are able to induce him to commit suicide. Sakura recommends not to go off the trails to avoid falling victim to the Yurui. After staying overnight in a hotel, Sarah spends the evening in a bar where she meets a reporter named Aiden. The young man lives in Tokyo and writes articles for an Australian travel magazine. He also tells her that he knows a gamekeeper who makes rounds in the forest, and he is ready to arrange for him to take the girl with him. In the evening, the young people spend a short time drinking beer, and Sarah tells about her parents. When they were 6 years old, her parents went to the movies. They were hit by a drunk driver on the way to their house. Sarah didn't see anything, so she still believes the story, but Jess still managed to see that there was no driver. Their parents killed themselves, shooting themselves at the same time. The men try to warn the girl, but she says she would have sensed her sister's death. The gamekeeper is told that the biggest danger is that Sarah has sadness in her heart, which means that the spirits can take over her mind. As they enter the forest, Michi asks the young men to be careful. He assures them that all the terrible things that will appear before their eyes are nothing but hallucinations that their brains will draw. When Sarah sees the tent in the distance, she asks questions, and Michi tells them that those who are not sure of their plans will end their lives. They take the tent with them. Walking a little further, the group finds the corpse of a man who has hanged himself. Michi removes the body and marks the place on the map to give the information to the rangers, who will later take the deceased out. Toward evening, the company finds a tent that Sarah knows. Michi offers to leave her a note and come back in the morning, but the girl declares that she will wait for her sister. Realizing that it is too dangerous, Aiden decides to run away and forget. But each time, she was able to save her. At night, she hears some wrestling and climbs out of the tent. When she sees a frightened schoolgirl, she tries to help her. The teenager tells Aiden that Aiden is not to be trusted, and when she hears his voice, she quickly disappears into the darkness. Early in the morning, the couple decides to leave a note in the tent and go to explore the forest further. After a few hours on the road, they realize that they are lost. Meanwhile, Sarah can't get Sarah's words out of her head, and she asks her new acquaintance to show her phone. Seeing a picture of her sister in it, she throws the device away and runs away, believing that the young man deliberately lured her into the forest. Sarah turns around and hears voices, but tries to ignore them. However, she turns around when she hears a noise behind her. When she sees the corpse, Sarah recoils in horror and falls into a trap, falling into a dungeon. Meanwhile, Michi returns to the tent and, not finding the young men, hurries to call the police and rangers to form a search party. The man blames himself for leaving the Americans in the forest. and now he believes with all his heart that they are alive and well. Sarah comes across Hachiko, who assures her that she knows where Jess is. Suspecting something wrong, the girl cautiously follows, but seeing that she is not a human but a ghost, she immediately turns around and hurries in the opposite direction. Aiden at this time finds the place where Sarah has fallen. He calls out to the girl, and when she responds, he hurries to find a rope to pull her out. Sarah herself at this moment sees a camera from their childhood and starts flipping through the pictures. When Aiden pulls the girl out, she looks at him apprehensively, but remembering that Hachiko turned out to be a ghost, she agrees to look for the way together. As darkness falls, the young people find an abandoned hunting lodge and decide to stay there for the night. Looking around, Sarah finds a note and realizes that it was written by Jess. After waiting for the right moment, she pounces on the young man and stabs him in the heart. When she opens the door to the basement and sees herself as a child, she realizes that both the photo in his phone and the note from Jess were just hallucinations. When Sarah sees the ghost of her father forcibly grabbing her hand, she starts to cut off his fingers to free herself. Running outside, she sees Jess and tries to catch up with her, but her sister calls for help and runs away. She can't believe her eyes, thinking that it's all the forest tricks, but realizing that it's real people in front of her, the girl can't hide her tears of joy. When Jess hears that Sarah is looking for her in the woods, she tries to go back for her, but Rob assures her that it's better to wait until morning. At that moment, Sarah realizes that during another hallucination, she was not cutting the ghost's fingers, but her own wrists. In fact, she is now sitting in the basement of the abandoned house, bleeding to death. While in the car, Jess reports that she can no longer feel her sister. And that can only mean one thing: Sarah is no longer alive. She was weaker than her sister and gave in to Yuri, for which she paid with her life. I watched this movie and you know what? I liked it, so I hope you like our retelling too. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and of course like it. See you soon.